Alright, hello everyone, welcome back. So before, if you still remember, in the introduction section, we provide with the architecture of the database system, right? How the system really works when we have some query inputs, how the system actually processes the queries, and we can also have some a transaction inputs, as well as some other inputs, commands, right? And how the system will deal with these commands and queries to generate the outputs, and also to deal with the database systems. So in this page, we want to show the query processing process in database system again for you. So normally when we have some query inputs, right, it can be some users as well as some applications. Before we mentioned, the query can be generated by some program, right? If you click one button in the web page, and the web page will generate one query to be sent to the backend, to the backend of database system for answering, right? So when a user and application generate some queries or updates, these kinds of queries will be sent to the query compiler. This compiler is very similar to compiler we use in programming languages as well as in other systems. So we have to combine the query into some language the machine can understand, right? So it is a compiler, and based on the compiling results, we will send the query again to the execution engine, because right now the machine can understand the query in some language, right? So we need to execute these queries. Normally we need to design the query execution plan before we send it to the query execution engine. Once we have a query execution plan as well, we have the engine ready, then the engine can run based on the execution plan, right? As well as specific queries will compile based on inputs. And this query execution engine inside the database system will be based on some records. This denotes the concrete data we store in the database systems, right? As well as some index. This index is what we covered in the previous section, right? For speeding up the query process time cost. So the query execution engine will generate not so record as well as index requests. It will be sent to the index and record manager. This manager is also one program dealing with the records as well as index in database systems. So this manager, the index record manager, they will generate some page commands, because this manager may need to deal with concrete data storage, right, we have in the system, in the computer. In other words, they have to deal with this kind of buffers, storage, as well as the more low level, architectures in the computer, right? So, they will generate lots of page commands to be sent to the buffer manager, and we may need to request for some pages storing some data or some index tables, right? So the index record manager will send some page commands to a buffer manager. Buffer manager actually is also one program. It helps controlling the storage space in the memory. It is also called a buffer, right? Buffer memory. They may need to deal with read and write between the memory as well as the storage spaces. So the buffer manager will do not to read and write among the pages between the memory as well as storage space. Instead of dealing with the storage space directly, they will interact with the storage manager instead. This is also one program. It is responsible for dealing with the storage space we have. We have mentioned this information before, right? For the storage, because we are storing the data into some disk, into some SSD, into the hard drive, right? And we have to have a storage manager for dealing with this very low level storage space. So we need to load and read as well as save and write information into the storage space, and also load them to the memory, right? So this is a general process for processing a query in a database system. Given the inputs, we have a query compiler, execution engine, index record manager, buffer manager, as well as storage manager for dealing with the inputs. So we can deal with and also with the storage space. So we can process the query and also return the results back to the user and applications, right? So this is the architecture for processing the query in database systems. It can provide you with some high-level information and a big picture for the system, so you know how the system works and how the system generates outputs for the input queries.